Let's head back to Washington now to get some more analysis on last night's State of the Union address. We're joined now by Representative Mike Lawler. He's a freshman congressman from New York who currently serves on the House Financial Services and Foreign Affairs Committees. Congressman Lawler, thank you so much for your time. You were inside the room, and we know there were some tense moments, including Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene. She shouted liar when the president said some Republicans want Social Security and Medicare to sunset. Now, you have said you will not support cutting either of those programs. So can you say with certainty that they will be off the table in those upcoming debt ceiling negotiations?
Yes, I could say with certainty. The Speaker has said with certainty that they're off the table. So, you know, I think it was a very disingenuous statement on the part of the president last night. And, you know, frankly, was a missed opportunity to really forge a bipartisan path forward. The reality is that Democrats no longer have one-party rule in Washington. Republicans have the House majority to serve as a check and balance on the Biden agenda. And the president needs to recognize that we all have to come to the table and negotiate in good faith. The bottom line is the administration has spent $5 trillion in new spending in just 2 years. That is unsustainable. Our national debt is now at $31 trillion. And so we have to come together and find a path forward that puts us back on the path to fiscal solvency and a balanced budget. And so all we're saying is that the president needs to be reasonable, he needs to be responsible, and we need to negotiate in good faith. Of course, we're going to lift the debt ceiling. Of course, we're going to pay our debts previously incurred. But we cannot continue to borrow at this level. And so, you know, going forward, we need to come together. But we have all been very clear that Social Security and Medicare are off the table. So to make that statement in the middle of the State of the Union, and by the way, he acknowledged that, well, it's not really the position of the party, but you know, somebody has said it. I mean, that's ridiculous.
So what would you want to cut? What spending?
Oh, look, this, as I've said from the very beginning, we need to employ an actual budgetary process. You need to go line by line, department by department, agency by agency. There has not been a real budget process in a very long time. And so all of these departments need to justify their spending. And we've already, by the way, passed legislation to repeal the 87,000 new IRS agents and employees at a cost of $80 billion. So you can start there. But obviously, you need to have a real budget process. So it's not about saying, I'm going to cut this and we're going to cut that. It's about putting a process together and actually going through the budget and coming up with a long-term spending plan that, frankly, we can afford. The American people are being nickeled and dimed to death, and many people, especially in my area, in a place like New York, cannot afford to live there anymore because of the high cost of living, much of it tied to government spending at a federal level and a state level. And so we need to get our fiscal house in order. It requires a good faith negotiation. Right. Neither side has one-party rule, so you have to work together. And that's why I say I think the president missed an opportunity last night.
And you mentioned coming together, working together, but still there were several outbursts from Republicans during the speech, not just when it came to the Medicare conversation. And this is, of course, a break from the normal decorum that we'd seen up until about 2009 during the Obama administration when someone shouted, "You lie," during his State of the Union address. So in your opinion, first of all, what is your reaction to how it's becoming a little bit more common of an occurrence to see hecklers or shouting or just interruptions of any sort? And how do you propose coming together with when that is now becoming the standard?
Well, first of all, in the prior administration, the Speaker of the House stood up on the dais and ripped the president's speech. So, I mean, if we want to talk decorum, we could sit there and go through all the problems with decorum. But the bottom line to me is the president last night took the opportunity to make statements that were just factually wrong. The Republican Party is not going to gut Social Security and Medicare. And so obviously some of my colleagues reacted to that. But we can find area of agreement. We can find area of agreement on the fentanyl crisis, on the mental health crisis, on infrastructure and transportation, on microchips. But frankly, the president spent more time last night talking about junk fees than he did about immigration, China, and Ukraine. That, to me, is unacceptable. Those are serious challenges that we're dealing with right now. We need to come together on them. We need to have bipartisan solutions to deal with our broken immigration system, to secure our border, to increase border patrol, to increase the number of court personnel, to hear asylum cases, and to tackle the fentanyl crisis, where you have drugs pouring into our communities, killing tens of thousands of Americans a year. This is a serious crisis, and frankly, it deserved a lot more attention than it got last night by the president. And of course, China, our greatest geopolitical threat in the world. And we need to be serious about it, which is why the House Republican majority created the Select Committee on China. We've already held hearings in the Financial Services Committee with respect to China. We're going to be doing the same in the Foreign Affairs Committee. There is a lot of work to do. And again, I think we can come together. I think the president and the speaker have sat down last week. I'm hoping they'll continue those conversations. I'm less worried about some of the snickering or sneering at the State of the Union. I mean, frankly, I think the president enjoyed the back and forth at times. So, it's unfortunately, I guess, become commonplace in our politics. But the bottom line is I'm more concerned about the substance of the policies that we're talking about than anything else.
All right, Representative Mike Lawler from New York, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Appreciate your time on this. Would love to have you back anytime.
Thank you.